You bought a small tank. It looks great, but which fish do you put in it? Small tank, small fish sounds logical, but that logic usually points people toward the wrong species, and the wrong species creates disaster much faster in a small tank, because water chemistry changes far more rapidly in a small volume. If you're ready, today I'll tell you what actually works. Which fish are genuinely happy in small tanks? Which ones look small but need a lot more space? And there's one combination on this list that creates a near-perfect ecosystem in a tank around 5 gallons. But first, you need to understand why a small tank is actually a more demanding environment. A large tank forgives mistakes. A small tank doesn't. In a 5 to 10 gallon tank, the water volume is low. Waste accumulates far more quickly in a small volume. Ammonia can climb to critical levels within hours. Temperature swings are far more dramatic. If the room heats up, the tank heats up fast. This is why species selection in a small tank is far more critical than in a large one. When you place a fish in a small tank, 2 questions need answers. Can this fish live healthily in this volume? And does this fish's waste production exceed what this volume's filtration can handle? We're going to talk about the fish where both answers are yes, but let's start with the smallest and most unexpected entry point on this list. Chili Rasbora, the smallest, the reddest, half an inch long, fire red, and it can live in a tank as small as 2.5 gallons. The Chili Rasbora, Barrera's Brigitte, is the champion of nano tanks. Nearly every source puts this species at the top of the list for nano setups. It produces low waste in small volumes. It's more tolerant of water chemistry than you'd expect. And when a school of them swims through a planted tank, the visual impact is completely out of proportion to their size. But pay attention, it's a schooling fish. You need to start with at least 8. In smaller numbers, it gets stressed, its color fades, and its activity drops. And because it's so small, food size is critical. Standard pellets won't fit in its mouth. Micro pellets or Daphnia are essential. If you want both beauty and personality in your tank and prefer to keep a single species, there's a far more interesting option on this list. Pea puffer, the sole ruler of a small tank. 1 inch long, eyes that move independently, curious, intelligent, a fish that actually watches you. The pea puffer lives comfortably in a tank starting at 5 gallons, but alone, or with very carefully chosen tank mates. Because we've talked about this before, this fish's beak crushes snail shells, and it targets fish with small fins. With the wrong tank mate, 5 gallons turns into a battleground in no time. But kept alone, it's perfect. This fish is a true pet. By the time you approach the aquarium, it's already at the glass waiting for you. A 5 gallon tank, dense planting, small hiding spots, live or frozen food. This setup is enough for a pea puffer. But who else can live in that tank? Ember Tetra. Small, but visually powerful. 3/4 of an inch long, orange amber coloring. When a school of 10 to 12 of them moves through a planted tank, they glow like embers. The Ember Tetra is the far more resilient version of the Neon Tetra, more tolerant of new tanks, more forgiving of water parameters, genetically far less worn down than the Neon, and it lives comfortably in tanks starting at 5 to 6 gallons. Schooling fish, at least 8, 12 is even better, and it has one more advantage. It's calm. It creates the same visual impact as a Neon Tetra, but causes far fewer problems. The acclimation process is much easier. Disease resistance is much higher. 10 to 12 Ember Tetras and 4 to 5 Pygmy Corydoras in a small planted tank. This beginning is about as close to a perfect ecosystem as you can get in 5 to 6 gallons. If you want a little sound in the tank too, the next fish is excellent. Sparkling Gourami, the fish with a voice. 1.5 inches long, iridescent spots, and it makes sound. We covered the sparkling Gourami in the weapons video earlier, but this time we're looking at a different side of it, compatibility with small tanks. It has a labyrinth organ. It rises to the surface to breathe air. This makes it tolerant of lower oxygen levels, and it lives in a tank from 5 to 10 gallons, either as a pair or in a small group. It needs dense plant coverage. Surface plants in particular are important. The air being breathed through the labyrinth organ needs to be warm, not cold. A lid is essential, and that sound. It's most audible during mating and territorial marking. The first time you hear it, you'll think, is something making noise in my tank? But one warning for the sparkling Gourami. Strong filter current creates stress. It needs calm water. If you install a powerful filter without knowing this, the fish lives under constant stress. The quietest residents of a small tank come next. Pygmy Corydoras, the bottom layer. Completed, 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch long, in a school, constantly exploring the substrate. The Pygmy Corydoras is the nano version of the common Corydoras. Same calm temperament, same curiosity, same personality, but far lower space requirements. 4 to 6 individuals live comfortably in 5 gallons, and one feature sets this species apart from others. It occasionally rises to the surface to breathe air. The first time you see it, you get worried. Can't it breathe? But this is completely normal behavior. It's one of the rare species that performs intestinal breathing. Fine sand or smooth substrate is essential. On sharp gravel, those sensitive barbels gradually get damaged, and its most important characteristic, it's a stress indicator. The Pygmy Corydoras responds very quickly when water quality drops or parameters shift. If something is going wrong, they're the first ones to let you know. But there's one species on this list that stands alone. Betta, ideal under the right conditions. Everyone knows this fish, and everyone associates it with small tanks. But the difference between small tank and cup is absolutely critical. Minimum for a betta, 4 to 5 gallons. A heater is essential, stable 75 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. A filter is essential, but low current. Plants or hiding spots are essential. The betta wants to mark out its own space. When these conditions are met, the betta becomes the most personable resident of a small tank. It recognizes you. It comes to the front. It establishes its own order inside the tank. But the betta must be kept alone. And one detail, the betta's current tolerance is very low. A strong filter wears down those long fins. A sponge filter or a very low flow system is ideal for this species. Kuhli Loach, the nighttime resident. Slender, long, snake-like, hides during the day, active at night. The Kuhli Loach lives in small groups in tanks starting at 8 to 10 gallons, and it causes very little trouble. It doesn't attack anything, doesn't bother anyone. A bottom feeder. It eats leftovers and forages between the substrate. Fine substrate is essential. It prefers sand. Its biggest challenge, you won't see it during the day. It hides under decor, between plants, inside rocks. New owners worry, is my fish sick? No, it's just nocturnal. But if you look at the tank with a dim red light after turning the lights off at night, you'll find the entire scene has come to life with them. And that sight makes the wait worth it. This last section of the list may be the most important. Neon Tetra. Yes, it looks small, but it's extremely fragile in new or small tanks. It needs stable, mature water chemistry. In a small tank, chemistry changes too fast, and their tolerance for that change is low. Goldfish. We've covered this before. Small appearance, enormous waste production. Not suitable for a small tank under any circumstances. Tiger barb. Small but aggressive and a schooling fish. In a small tank, that combination leads to inevitable problems. Common guppy. Small and elegant, but it reproduces rapidly. A 5-gallon tank fills up and overflows in no time. Zebra danio. Fast and highly active. This level of activity requires a long tank. In a small square tank, that energy turns into stress. You bought a small tank. It looked beautiful, but the question of which fish to put in it was still unanswered. Now you have the answer. The chili Rasbora builds a perfect school in 2.5 gallons. The pea puffer claims sole sovereignty over 5 gallons. The Ember Tetra fills a small tank like glowing embers. The sparkling Gourami makes actual sound. The Pygmy Corydoras completes the bottom layer. The Betta, under the right conditions, takes full ownership of that small space. Now look at your own tank. How many gallons? And which species from this list are you thinking of putting in? Write it in the comments. I'm curious which combination you've tried, what worked, and what didn't. In the next video, we'll talk about ideal plant selection for nano tanks. Which plants genuinely work in small volumes, and which ones take over everything. If you don't want to miss it, you know what to do. See you under the water.